Thanks again, Archbishop.
Thank you, Makani.
Glad to be here. This is the month of May, the traditional month of Mary. The Holy Father has called upon us to make this a marathon of prayer for the end of the pandemic to Mary, the Mother of God. It's also Mother's Day.
It is certainly in Canada and parts of the Western world, not everywhere.
Yeah, very fitting. And I was wondering about your own memories. I mean, I remember the one main memory I have as a child for myself is breakfast in bed for Mom on Mother's Day.
That for sure, except my mother got breakfast in bed every day.
No.
Yes, she did. I mean, we'd bring up the women's section of the Montreal Gazette with her breakfast, and my dad made breakfast downstairs for us.
That was every day? So
pretty much. Maybe it was only 6 days a week, but yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. So what did you do for Mother's Day then?
For Mother's Day, I'm not sure whether we would try to go out for dinner. I can't remember. I remember mostly we tried to give little gifts. You know, in those days you gave one rose or a homemade card, things like that. But I don't remember much else, to be honest. I remember mostly the construction paper cards that Sister made us make for our mothers.
Right, in flower shape. And later on,
different shapes, all this stuff, different colors.
You must have given her flowers sometime later.
I did. No, we used to give. She liked the roses were 50 cents. You could buy one rose, and she liked roses, so we would do that.
Now, so if it was Mother's Day, you went out for dinner. I'm assuming you didn't make dinner.
No, I don't think she did, but I don't remember because we didn't really go out for dinner much in those days. No, go out the odd time.
Or did she have a favorite meal that she either prepared or that she wanted herself?
That she wanted. She didn't express that. We wanted.
Yeah.
And of course, it was always the roast beef, rare Yorkshire pudding, that kind of meal.
Was that your favorite meal?
Yes, sure was.
Yeah. So, and it's so typical, right? She didn't let you know exactly what her favorite was.
No, but when we would go out later on in life, after my father died and I'd be on vacation, she would always order fish, which I never do when I'm out.
Oh, I see.
She would order Dover sole. I remember that specifically. Wow. But at home, we didn't have that.
Yeah. Now, your mother wasn't Catholic.
No, my mom wasn't Catholic. She was born a Methodist. And then when the Methodists became part of the United Church, she became United Church.
Right. But she did have a respect, reverence for Mary.
She did. I remember certainly we had, and I still have at home, one of the, it's really an icon of Mary that is in my home. And statue of Mary and so on. Those little things were around the house, appropriately.
Pope John Paul II wrote that all women exercise, he quotes, an effective cultural and spiritual motherhood, all women, which has inestimable value for the development of individuals and the future of society.
Right. I think what the Pope is saying is that all women are called to maternity, that women are essentially called to motherhood. And of course, they exercise that motherhood in different ways. Many actually, probably the majority, bear children. All women are also called to a spiritual motherhood if they don't have children, if they're consecrated or single. But he identifies motherhood very closely simply with the fact of being a woman. And in his famous 1995 letter to women, that becomes very clear. The feminine genius,
right,
a term he uses, also really almost implies necessarily motherhood, that to be a woman is to be a mother.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he does say a woman is endowed with a particular capacity for accepting the human being in his concrete form.
Right, that women, because many women, of course, are mothers in the physical sense, that they have this closeness to their child, but even women who are spiritual mothers have a kind of a special care and nurturing care for the soul. That the Pope did very closely identify maternity and femininity.
So, in a true sense, all women can celebrate Mother's Day.
I think, yes, in a real sense, they can celebrate motherhood, and I think that's certainly the way the Church would propose it, although Mother's Day itself is a secular
Right.
invention, but
Yeah.
we can join in. It's a good, wonderful thing to be able to celebrate.
What unique gift did your mother have, or unique gifts did your mother have, or impress upon you that's made the biggest difference in your life?
My mother was she was very well educated. She went to completed university at the University of Saskatchewan.
That was rare.
It was in the 1930s.
Yeah.
And so the notion of education was just, without harping on it, was always assumed as an important goal. And my sister, in fact, is a biochemist, has a doctorate in biochemistry. So the notion that that women are educated, that they have their own opinions. And my mother certainly had her own opinions about religion. I mean, she was in the day when she married my father, who was Catholic, of course. They had to sign that they would raise the children Catholic, and my mother obviously kept to that and had really no difficulty with that. But even when I would try to argue religious questions with her as a teenager, she wasn't easily bowled over, and in fact, never was bowled over.
How else was she exceptional?
My mother was a very kind of kind person, helpful, that would help other people, and she never. And I didn't really realize this until later in life. She was never a gossip. She never talked down other people. So I didn't kind of grow up in a home where gossip was part of the
culture
of the culture of the home. And in fact, my sister is like that too. She doesn't.
That's a great gift.
It is, and I just assumed that was normal until I was a lot older and realized that it wasn't always the case.
How do you think your view or your understanding of Mary, the Mother of God, has been influenced or shaped by your understanding of your own mother, and vice versa?
Yeah, that's. I imagine the vice versa. It's harder for me to distinguish what. I mean, my mother was obviously an important person in the family, so that would transfer somewhat. But I think probably Marian devotion was more per se from school, when we would have altars to Mary during the month of May, where we would, say the rosary kneeling on the back of our desks. But it's hard to imagine that what I think of Mary as being kind of, the attentive mother, the tenderness, that some of that doesn't also come from my own experience of my mother. I think that's inevitable.
Yeah. I think all of us understand our mothers in unique ways.
Right.
And of course, all of that contributes to the great Mother of God and the fullness of. Can we even comprehend?
No, we can't really comprehend the ultimate of just think of the terms Mother of God. Yeah. I mean, we can imagine, so many different things of Mary. I mean, even in this room where we are now, there are 5 or 6 different images of Mary.
Yeah.
At the Epiphany, at her birth, at the Annunciation, traveling into Egypt, and then throughout the history of art and devotion, different titles, different manifestations of Mary have come forth, and they all show, I think, together the richness, the complexity of Mary, and in some ways the wonder of Mary.
Yeah.
That we can't buttonhole her or say she was just this or that. I mean, she was so many things, and that's why I think her appeal is so widespread. My own devotion to Mary is really particularly focused on Guadalupe, Our Lady of Guadalupe, which I visited when I was 18 for the first time, and then certainly subsequently. It's the picture I always have on my desk and at home in my room and so on.
Yeah.
The simplicity and the beauty of the Guadalupe story, when Mary simply says to Juan Diego, "Am I not your mother?" What more? And there were no strings attached.
Yeah.
She didn't push us over by having, that we had to do anything other than sort of, be glad that she's our mother.
Our mother. Yeah. It is the month of May. Traditionally, even if those who say the rosary every day,
Right.
even if you don't, it's kind of the month to
When you
keep that
get
up
when you
and-
get back, if you've given up a little bit of the practice of a full rosary,
Yeah.
and stream it down to a decade maybe,
Yeah.
it is a time for renewal. And of course, here in the Archdiocese, Our Lady is especially venerated under the title of Our Lady of the Rosary. It's the name of our cathedral, and it's Holy Rosary Cathedral.
Right. This is the. Has there been a time in your life where the rosary took on a unique significance?
Yes, and there was, and I say I'm using the past tense. That it was particularly significant to me when I was a teenager. Interestingly enough,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, when I was 13 to 17 or 18.
Yeah.
That was, yes, I remember that specifically because I could say the rosary with my hands on the windowsill looking out to the backyard and the tree. I remember that very, very clearly.
It's wonderful. I know you will send out a special Mother's Day greeting for
I would.
prayer for everyone.
Love to pray for mothers.
So at this point, we won't say that except to say, yes, Happy Mother's Day to all mothers.
Happy Mother's Day indeed to all the women here in the Archdiocese of Vancouver.
Thanks, Archbishop.
Thank you, Makani.